Mr. President, I rise today to talk about the growing problem of student debt and the college affordability crisis that is gripping our nation. I also rise to talk about one of the things we need to do to address this crisis, and that is to pass the Bank on Students Emergency Loan Refinancing Act, which I was proud to join Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts in introducing yesterday. We have to take action on student debt because it's just a huge problem in this country. The total amount of student loan debt held by Americans is more than $1.2 trillion today, surpassing the total amount of credit card debt in our nation. More and more Americans are becoming saddled with large amounts of student debt, and that limits their ability to buy homes, save for retirement, and make other purchases that will help keep our economy growing. Now, my state, Minnesota, has the unfortunate distinction of being the state with the fourth highest average debt for students graduating from a four-year college at over $30,000 per student. And over the last several years, I've held college affordability roundtables in Minnesota to hear from students and families about the challenges that they face paying for college and to talk about ways to make the situation better. Let me tell you about one of the stories that I heard. Last month at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, I met Joelle Stangler, a sophomore who is the incoming student class president with a 4.12 GPA. Joelle graduated from Rogers High School in Minnesota as their valedictorian. She was also senior class president and the captain of her volleyball team. Joelle doesn't lack motivation when it comes to school. Both of Joelle's parents were teachers, and in fact, she comes from a long line of educators going back 6 generations. But a couple of years ago, Joelle's mom, Casey Stangler, made the difficult decision to quit her job as a 5th grade teacher to go to work in the private sector where she'd get more money so she could help send her 4 kids to college. Among the 5th grade classes in her school district, Mrs. Stangler's students showed some of the highest rates of improvement on test scores. We lost a great teacher because of how expensive post-secondary education is. And not only that, even with her mom's sacrifice, Joelle, who is only in her 2nd year of college, already has $12,000 in student loans. And she estimates that her total debt will be around $30,000 by the time she graduates. And again, that is even with her mom leaving the job she loves, the job really, as a society, we would want her to be in, and that she is just so great at. Now, at the roundtables that I have around the state of Minnesota, I always hear about students working multiple jobs, sometimes even putting in 40 hours a week while going to school full time. Now, working in school is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, not necessarily. Some work can help students manage their time, become more productive, and of course help pay for college. But evidence shows that when a student starts to work more than 15 hours a week, it becomes harder for the student to maintain good grades in school and to graduate from school on time. Students are working more because college is becoming less and less affordable, and they're still taking out more and more student loans and graduating with more and more debt despite having worked while they were in school. And I just don't think that is right, and I don't think it's productive for our country. One student at the last roundtable I did said I can work 40 hours a week and have less debt, or I can work 20 hours a week and be more involved in school. That's not the kind of choice students should have to face in America today. Now, I've talked to students who work full-time while going to school and actually give blood, sell their blood every once in a while to help pay maybe their rent or their housing. Now, recently, some encouraging things have happened in Minnesota thanks to the work of Governor Mark Dayton and the state legislature. Our state's public colleges and universities received an increase in funding from the state last year. After more than a decade of spending cuts to higher education and tuition increases in Minnesota, the state increased higher education funding for the last 2 academic years by 10%, including a 15% increase in need-based state grants. This much-needed funding has allowed the public universities and colleges in Minnesota to hold their tuition steady instead of passing on higher costs to Minnesota students. Now, this has been a significant victory for Minnesota students and families, but students are still facing daunting costs in paying for college, and they are still graduating with far too much debt. In the Senate, I've been working on a number of solutions to the college affordability problem. I've got 2 bipartisan bills with Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa that would help students and families understand college costs and compare the costs of different colleges as they go through the process of selecting a school. Our Net Price Calculator Improvement Act makes these online tools more user-friendly in order to give students and their families a better estimate of college costs before they decide where to apply to college. And Senator Grassley and I have another bill that will require schools to use a universal financial aid letter. Right now, these letters are incredibly confusing. They often don't clearly indicate what's a grant and what's a loan. A lot of people don't think that they say award letters on sometimes, and they include loans. A lot of people don't consider a loan an award. And that they use just different terminology. And if you get a Stafford subsidized loan in one letter, it might say Stafford subsidized loan, this amount. And another, it might have a code number, an X5382. When we put out this bill, I got all kinds of calls from college counselors, from high school counselors saying thank you. Our bill would make sure that students and their families and their counselors get clear and uniform information so they can make apples-to-apples comparisons between what the different schools are offering. Another part of the problem, the college affordability problem, which is often overlooked, is the price of textbooks. Students in Minnesota are spending an average of $1,400 per year on textbooks, $200 more than the national average. One Minnesotan I've heard from, Carrie Cooper at Bemidji State, has to choose between paying for her textbooks and paying her rent, and she ends up putting her textbook costs on her credit card. I introduced a bill with Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois called the Affordable College Textbook Act that would address this problem. Our bill would expand the use of free, online, open-source college textbooks, which are really a great alternative to the traditional expensive kind. This is a great way to reduce the overall cost of going to college. College students like Carrie and Joelle and countless others are working incredibly hard when they are still taking on significant amounts of debt. And part of the reason that this debt will stay with them for a good portion of their lives is that they are paying such high interest rates. Many college graduates are locked into loans with interest rates as high as 10%, which makes it all the more difficult to pay off your student loan. The last thing our students need is to be saddled with high interest rates on student loans that continue to burden them long after graduation. And there is a clear, common sense solution here. And that solution is contained in the bill that I am proud to have joined Senator Warren in introducing, the Bank on Students Emergency Loan Refinancing Act. Students and graduates should be able to take advantage of lower interest rates and refinance their loans. When interest rates are low, homeowners, businesses, and even local governments regularly refinance their debts. Yet, despite being the biggest student lender by far, the federal government offers no refinancing option to student borrowers. Once you graduate, if you have a high interest rate on your student loans, you're stuck with that high interest rate forever. That's just not right for our students and families, and it's damaging for the long-term well-being of our country because it holds people back from making the decisions that help drive economic growth, the decision to buy a home, to start a family, to start a new business, to purchase big-ticket items like a car. Our new bill would allow students and graduates who have existing private and public student loan debt from their undergraduate education to refinance these loans at less than 4%. Last summer, we came together in Congress to prevent the interest rate on new student loans from doubling. Thanks to that effort, undergraduate students taking out new loans now have a rate of 3.86%. Well, the bill we introduced yesterday would enable students and graduates who are saddled with higher interest rates on their undergraduate loans to refinance at the same 3.86% rate. There are nearly 40 million Americans with outstanding student loans, and many of them face interest rates higher than 3.86%, some of them much, much higher. This legislation will give them a chance to cut down their debt and keep more of their hard-earned paychecks. It will help thousands of students in Minnesota who, like Joelle and Carrie, are doing everything they can to get their college degree. So many Minnesotans in schools across the state show tremendous perseverance and grit in getting a college education and in cobbling together the resources to pay for it. They should not end up with crushing debt and be unable to take advantage of lower interest rates to reduce that debt when so many other kinds of debt, so almost every other kind of debt, you're able to refinance. Mr. President, we have a lot to do and a long way to go to reduce student debt for our students and make college more affordable. Doing that will help more Americans find jobs to support their families, help more employers find qualified workers for their businesses, and help our economy prosper. Passing this bill would be one important step that we can and that we should take. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the floor.